Look, if you've been building agents, especially those complex support systems with subagents and a whole coordinator layer, you know exactly how much blood, sweat, and tears goes into it. You get it to a point where you feel like you've made it absolutely bulletproof. You ship it to production, everything seems totally fine, and then boom, those support tickets start rolling right back in. You realize pretty quickly something is deeply broken. And it's incredibly frustrating, right? Because you've built this agent with very specific tools and strict limits, yet it's still escalating the easiest, most resolvable tickets to a human. The agent looks up the order, sure, but it never actually pulls the trigger and processes the refund. So why on earth does this happen? Well, it turns out the main reason your agent is failing to use those tools properly actually boils down to something deceivingly simple: the description of the tool itself. Honestly, this quote brilliantly captures the massive paradigm shift we have to make right from day one. See, we are so incredibly used to writing tool descriptions for other human developers who might stumble across our code. But here's the reality. Humans aren't reading that code anymore. Claude is. Claude is the one reading these tool descriptions to judge exactly which tool to pick while it's spinning in its agentic loop. There's no secret routing layer or fancy algorithm making that choice behind the scenes. The description literally is the sole routing mechanism. So our agenda for today will take us from diagnosing a broken agent all the way to a production-grade makeover. We'll be looking at 1. Why your agent fails, 2. The restaurant menu rule, 3. Fixing description overlap, 4. Specific tool naming, and finally, 5. Aligning system prompts. Let's get right into it. Section 1. Why your agent fails. Let's go back to that highly relatable scenario we just talked about: the malfunctioning customer support agent. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, but wait a second, I implemented pre-tool hooks. It is absolutely crucial to understand the difference here. Yes, pre-tool hooks handle policy enforcement, like stopping a refund if it's over a certain limit, but they do not help Claude realize it needs to actually use the tool in the first place. Think of it this way. Hooks enforce the rules of the road, but descriptions are the steering wheel driving the actual execution. To put that into perspective, let's look at how this plays out in the real world. Say your agent has a policy to auto-process refunds up to a $500 limit, right? So a customer asks for a $50 refund. They are perfectly eligible, but the agent still kicks it over to a human. The hook didn't reject the action. Claude simply couldn't figure out that it was supposed to use the refund tool at all. When an agent misses the mark this badly, the root cause is almost always a weak tool description that's just holding it back. Moving on to Section 2, the restaurant menu rule. Okay, so how do we actually fix this misrouting issue? We have to step into Claude's shoes and think about how it perceives the tools we give it. Imagine walking into a restaurant and opening up a menu, and the options are literally just listed as Dish A, Dish B, Dish C, and Dish D. You wouldn't have the slightest clue what to order. Those alphabetical labels carry absolutely zero semantic weight. But if that same menu is curated with rich, descriptive names like Paneer Tikka Masala, you know exactly what you're getting. It's the exact same for Claude. It needs rich, descriptive text to make the right choice in its agentic loop. If your tools lack a curated description, the AI is essentially looking at Dish A and just giving up. So what does a proper production-grade tool description actually look like? Well, it absolutely must hit 4 vital anatomy points. You just can't deploy to production with a quick one-line description in plain English anymore. First, you need to state clearly what the tool does. For example, retrieving a verified customer profile by their ID. Second, state when to call it. Something like, always call this first before any other tool. Third, and honestly, this is a real game changer, state what not to use it for. This acts as a negative prompting baked right into the tool description. So you'd explicitly warn the AI not to process a refund if it hasn't successfully looked up the order yet. And finally, number 4, tell it exactly what data it returns. Which brings us to Section 3, fixing description overlap. Now that we know how to write a solid description, what happens when Claude starts getting confused between tools that sound, well, suspiciously similar? This happens all the time in multi-agent research setups. In fact, if you're looking at the official syllabus for the exam, this mirrors Scenario 3 perfectly, where a coordinator has tools for web search, document analysis, and synthesis. If you're not super careful here, the descriptions for these tools will basically read like synonyms to Claude. Words like search, information, and content will just keep repeating across different tools, which completely confuses the model and causes it to call the wrong one. When we lean on generic descriptions, stuff like search for information or analyze and extract info, we are just creating a massive semantic mess. To fix this so it's completely unambiguous, we have to rewrite them to be mutually exclusive. So search web becomes query live internet pages. Search docs becomes full search across a preloaded research corpus. And analyze content becomes deep analysis of a specific piece of content that was already retrieved. Notice the difference? Now Claude has a crystal clear picture in its context window. Web means live internet, documents means the preloaded corpus, analyze means post-retrieval processing. No more overlap. And for anybody out there actively preparing for the certification, here is a huge exam tip for you. When a test scenario asks you to troubleshoot a tool misrouting issue, the options are often going to try and trick you by suggesting you add few-shot prompting or few-shot examples to the prompt. Look, few-shot prompting is a fantastic technique, but it's a total distractor in this specific context. The actual architectural fix for a tool that's failing due to confusion is to roll up your sleeves and rewrite those descriptions to be mutually exclusive. Don't fall for the trap. All right, section 4, specific tool naming. Sometimes the issue isn't even hiding in the long-form description, it's baked directly into the tool's name itself. If you're relying on generic names like get data, fetch info, or process, you are actively stripping away valuable semantic weight. Claude is going to look at search and think, okay, search what exactly? It just gets lost. But by making that tool name super specific, swapping get data for lookup customer profile or fetch info for retrieve order history, you're giving the AI immediate, high-value context about what the tool actually achieves before it even reads a single word of the full description. If you want to truly master this, I highly recommend adopting this mindset. Treat your tool names exactly like data access object functions or database queries. Just like when you're writing a DAO class in Java, you wouldn't dream of just having a generic search function, right? You'd split it out into get customer by ID and list customer orders. Giving your AI precise operational targets at the naming level instantly cuts down on ambiguity and misrouting. It's a small change, but it makes a world of difference. And finally, section 5, aligning system prompts. Okay, so we've fixed the tool names, we've nailed the descriptions, but there's one final missing link that really ties this entire agentic architecture together. Because here's the reality. Even with absolutely perfect tools, a bad system prompt can still completely derail the execution. If your system prompt simply says something like, you are a customer support assistant, you're framing the agent's role so generically that it inadvertently creates a bias. Claude will be primed to reach for safe generic actions, like just looking up a customer's profile, instead of actually processing a required refund. The system prompt and the tool descriptions absolutely have to be in perfect alignment. So instead of just leaving it at customer support assistant, you need to inject a specific tool use sequence right into the system prompt. You have to tell Claude exactly what its goal is, for instance, contract resolution of returns and refunds. Then lay out the sequence step by step. Step 1. Always call get customer first. Step 2, look up the order. Step 3, process the refund if they're eligible. And step 4, escalate to a human only as an absolute last resort. Doing this aligns the agent's overarching goal perfectly with its specific tools. It tells it exactly what to do and when to escalate, leaving literally zero room for guesswork. As you prepare for your exam, or even as you just start building out your next production-grade agent, I really want you to take a hard look at your own architecture. Audit your tool naming conventions, evaluate your descriptions to see if you're using negative prompting, and make sure your system prompts map out crystal clear sequences. So, I'll leave you with this one question to ponder. Are those seemingly minor tool descriptions actually the massive bottleneck holding your AI agent back from achieving true autonomy?